Hello, friends. It's Katie back with another episode of the Cinema Club Sunday Roundup. And we got a really short one this week because we actually only managed to watch 2 movies, if you can believe that. We were doing some summer fun stuff this week and playing games as a family and watching some series instead of watching a bunch of movies. So we only watched 2 this week, but they were 2 really fun ones and kind of oddly connected. Both movies featuring a member of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Okay, totally unintentional, but that's what happened this week. First up, Suburbia, written and directed by Penelope Spheris. Some things online cited as being a 1983 movie, but it was released in April of 1984, so I'm going with this is a 1984 movie. This is the total cult classic, which is kind of a social commentary and kind of a handbook for how to be a punk in the early 80s in Suburbia. So it's a coming of age drama, kind of a thriller also, I guess. Again, about suburban punks, a bunch of runaways who are living in a squat, going to shows, getting wasted, getting into all kinds of mayhem in their community. The parents and kind of squares and townies in the community have formed an organization called the Citizens Against Crime, which is pretty great. Again, I don't want to say too much about the actual plot of the film because I want you to watch it to find out what happens. But this film is incredible. It's almost like a time capsule. It's not a documentary at all, but it's like this great time capsule of what life was like for punks living in the suburbs in the early 80s. I was not a punk living in the suburbs in the early 80s. I am actually a little too young for this movie. Actually, the younger brother in the movie, Ethan, I think is about the same age as I was when this movie came out. So I didn't actually see the film until I was a teenager when I saw it at the UC Theater in Berkeley. So by that point, I was too old to identify with Ethan's character, but that's how old I would have been when the movie came out. So it's, like I said, a little bit before my time, but boy, when I first saw Suburbia as a teenager, I was just like, oh, wow, this movie is incredible. I feel like it pairs really well with Repo Man for like your 2 punk Southern California 1984 movies. I'm not going to talk about Repo Man right now. That's another vlog for another day. That's one of my favorite films of all time. But what a pairing! If you want to watch like the ultimate awesome punk double bill of 1984, Repo Man and Suburbia together. I think that I've seen them at a double bill at the UC Theater, but I don't know. I saw these movies so many times at the UC and there's so many different circumstances. It all starts to kind of blur together after a little while. But back to this film, Suburbia. So written and directed by Penelope Spheris, who also you may know from her documentary work, The Decline of Western Civilization. You've probably seen Wayne's World, which is her top grossing film. I actually found out it's the film she likes the least out of all the ones that she made. We went to see a screening of Decline of Western Civilization put on by Weird War at the Hollywood Theater here in Portland about 3 years ago. And after the film, there was a Q&A with Penelope, and it was incredible because Dennis, who's the host of Weird War, always does his research and like asks the best questions and really draws great anecdotes out of his guests. He seriously puts on some of the best Q&As I've ever seen. But that's where I learned that Penelope doesn't like Wayne's World that much at all, but it's her biggest commercial success she ever had. Isn't that true for so many artists? It's just the way. Story of a group of kids living in a squat, dealing with chaotic elements of the punk rock lifestyle, their own abusive households that they have run away from, drug use, all sorts of substance abuse, interpersonal conflicts, conflicts with the Citizens Against Crime, conflicts with local shopkeepers. Again, I don't want to just go into detail on the plot, but this film is tonally incredible. It's really interesting because Penelope Spheris went out and hired a bunch of actual street kids and punk rockers to play the characters in the movie. So no one in the movie is a professional actor. And it shows the acting is pretty bad. But if you have spent any amount of time hanging out with large groups of punks, it feels like Suburbia, and it feels like you're hanging out with bad actors. So it kind of fits that you have these sort of totally pure punks and street kids who are not actors playing these roles, because it just feels really right. Of course, one of the punks in the movie is Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. He plays Razzle. One of the other punks in the movie is played by a guy named Chris Pedersen. He's the one who plays Jack Diddley. I was looking up the actors in the movie to see if any of them went on to be in other movies besides Flea, and I found out randomly that Chris Pedersen is also in Point Break, which, big reveal, that's the other movie we watched this week, also with another member of the Red Hot Chili Peppers in it. The last thing I want to say about Suburbia, besides everybody needs to watch it, is it has some great concert footage of DI, TSOL, and the Vandals in the movie, which just sent me into like a DI jag. I've just been listening for the last 24 hours. Incredible stuff. Very cool to see the concert footage mixed in with the rest of the narrative storytelling in this film, and the way that the story unfolds and the ending of the story. Oh my God, I'm not going to say how it ends at all, but whew, man, what an incredible story. What an incredible film. What an incredible job by Penelope Spheris and by this crew of non-actors that she got to be in the movie. Like I said, the acting is bad, but it's pure. It comes from this amazing pure place, and I think you guys will appreciate it. So if for some reason you guys have never seen Suburbia, please watch Suburbia. It's a 10 out of 10 required viewing around here. All right. And of course, the other movie that we watched this week, which I already revealed, was Point Break from 1991, directed by Catherine Bigelow, starring Keanu Reeves, Patrick Swayze, Lori Petty, and Gary Busey, who are all incredible in their roles. This is the movie where Keanu Reeves plays the undercover surfing FBI agent who has to bust the bank robbers who rob banks with rubber masks of dead presidents as their disguises, so that nobody can see their faces while they're robbing the banks. It is a dumb story that is told really well, and the whole thing rides on the chemistry of the principal actors and the action sequences in the film, and they're all great. Whether the action that you're watching is a chase scene or a surfing scene or a skydiving scene or a bank robbery or a raid on a drug house or whatever, the action is incredible in this film. And you don't get to see a lot of action movies, especially in the early 90s, directed by women. And it's really a different take. It's really, you get a very different sensibility in your action film, and I love it. One of the other things that makes this film just stand out to me, and it's obvious that it's directed by a woman, is the romantic entanglement between Keanu Reeves's character and Lori Petty's character. She isn't just like a love interest. Like, she is his equal in all of their scenes together. She's like above him, more powerful than him in some of the scenes, which is crazy because normally, you have these sort of like rote formulas for action movies where the leading man has a love interest and she's literally just there to be, look good on his arm, or, oh, we can have a sex scene now, or whatever. And there's not really a lot of personal growth or character growth or really anything for her. She's just this sort of accessory for him. And it's so, so refreshing to watch an action movie where the lead man has a love interest and she is this fully fledged, fully formed character that totally holds her own in the story and throughout the entire narrative. Just fantastic. And I'm a Lori Petty fan. I think she's a really great actress. I have a real soft spot for Tank Girl, even though that is a crappy, crappy movie. But man, she does such a good job with the material that she was given in that movie. Point Break, it's incredible. I mentioned Anthony Kiedis is in the movie briefly. He plays a gangster. God, he's got like awful hair and this horrible attitude. And at one point, the feds do a raid on the gang's drug house. And Chris Pedersen, who played Jack back in Suburbia, he's also in the gang with Anthony Kiedis. But when they come in and they do the raid on their drug house, Anthony Kiedis shoots himself in the foot, like through the toe of his sneakers, and then proceeds to be screaming in the background of the rest of the scene. And I mean, it's a great movie, but hands down, my favorite part of the whole movie will always be Anthony Kiedis shooting himself in the foot because it's hilarious. The other amazing thing about this movie is, which I love to hear, is Patrick Swayze did almost all of his own stunts, including all of his own skydiving. And he and Keanu Reeves and Lori Petty really learned to surf for this movie. Like, they had no experience surfing before. Apparently, according to the guy who coached them to surf, Lori Petty had never even been in the ocean in her life. So kudos to them for learning how to do all that stuff and making it look really good on screen, and to Swayze for doing something like over 50 skydives to get all of those scenes correct, while, you know, everybody else was going with a stunt double. He was out there doing the real thing. So that was cool to learn. And of course, another thing that I love to see in the credits of a movie is a lot of the movie was filmed here in Oregon. The ending scene of the movie, which is this, like, you know, the biggest surf you've ever seen in your whole life, which is supposed to be taking place on a beach in Australia, was actually filmed at Cannon Beach here in Oregon. So that warmed my heart. I do love to see my adopted state in movies, even if it's not represented by name in movies. So that's cool. Another kind of funny note about the end of the movie, I'm not going to say what happens at the end, but it's basically the same ending as Dirty Harry. So I've been collecting this list of movies that have the same or similar endings where it's totally different movies. Point Break and Dirty Harry, same ending. Return of the Living Dead and Doctor Strangelove have the same ending. So I know I'm actually saying spoilers by telling you two movies with the same ending, but hopefully you'll forgive me because it's kind of an interesting, weird trivia project that I'm working on. So if you guys know of any movies that are totally different from each other but actually have the same ending, I'd love to hear about that. As usual, I would love to hear about what you've been watching this week, or if you have any recommendations for our crew around here. I know that Sean is after Pump Up the Volume and has not been able to find that online for streaming anywhere. So we're going to keep looking for that one and see if we can find that to show it to the kids next week, because that's a pretty important one for him. And we are going through this thing of, you know, showing these films that were really important, formative things for us when we were growing up to the kids now, to see what they think of them. And I have to say, just to jump back to Suburbia, the kids loved it, which really, really gratified me because, you know, it's 2021. The world of 1984 is very far in the past at this point. And for me, I can be nostalgic about 1984 because I remember it. But, you know, how do my kids relate to that world? And so when we put Suburbia on for them, I was kind of like, God, are they going to like get it and be into it? Or are they going to just kind of be like, whatever? They really, really got into it. I really think Jimmy was identifying with Ethan's character, the kid in the movie. And Henry really got into it too. So timeless classic for the youth, and an important movie for you when you're growing up. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there since I don't have anything more to say and I only watched 2 movies this week. I hope all of you are taking care and staying safe out there. I thank you as usual for watching, and I will be back in a few more days with another episode of my vlog. All right, I'll see you then.